Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. For today's look at the Rugby World Rankings, or rather the World Rugby Rankings, that have officially been confirmed today, although the World Rugby website actually hasn't updated. But the big news is that the Springboks have slipped from first on the World Rankings down to third. So a pretty big drop for the current world champions following their loss against Wales this weekend. And we're going to go look at the rankings a little bit and you can sort of understand why sort of one loss can send you from first down to third. And we always knew that this was a possibility against playing against Wales because of the different ranking, method and stuff like that. And yeah, and we sort of looked a little bit about sort of exactly how it works and stuff like that. And I think that there are a lot of factors which when you sort of feed into it, you can understand why the world rankings have changed so much. The big news, however, is that, for example, we're not the only ones that have dropped. New Zealand have dropped down to fourth for the first time in the, I think first time ever since the rankings have been introduced. But yeah, before we look at the rankings themselves, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. So the World Rugby website is, I don't know if Sanzov decided to hijack it, but it is not actually showing the correct rankings at the moment, which is quite funny. But okay, they still have South Africa number one. However, this is how the world rankings will look once it is updated. And as you can see, for the first time ever since they started doing the rankings, France currently top the world rankings with 89.41 points. They have moved up 2 spots from third place up to first place. Ireland also moving up 2 places and going into second. South Africa dropping down to third. New Zealand dropping down to fourth. England up to fifth, Australia down to sixth, Scotland up to seventh, Wales up to eighth, Argentina down to ninth, and Japan have remained firm down there in 10th. So it's quite an interesting table all of a sudden because at one stage we saw sort of South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, and Argentina occupying, at one stage I think it was about 4 of the top 5 spots. However, we are now seeing a bit of a comeback from the Northern Hemisphere sides with them dominating 3 of the top 5 positions, including the top 2. Now, they're quite complicated in terms of the exact sort of point system and stuff like that they use, but the main thing to sort of look at is that the system is basically created on obviously match results as well as the status, for example, a certain amount of points being calculated, the opposition strength, as well as home advantage. So that's where, if you look at the results this weekend, you can kind of understand why there has been so much movement. And we have been, I think, number one it was the longest that we've ever been number one, for example, without dropping. So it's quite interesting that we have sort of officially not sort of dropped out. And the reason is because if you look at Wales, for example, they ranked ninth in the world and we were ranked first. So regardless of whether Wales really are the ninth best team in the world, as far as the rankings go, to lose at home as well, because that comes into it, against Wales was going to see a massive drop off for us. For example, the reason Ireland jumped up is because they were down at fourth, and they beat New Zealand to a second, so they jumped up quite a lot. So we've lost, I think it's about 2 ranking points due to that loss against Wales. So if we'd won that game, we would have stayed at the top. But we always knew this was a possibility, and France have won a lot of games recently, which has sort of put them in that sort of 89.4 sort of region. So it wasn't really sort of a matter of them climbing, getting a lot more points. They were sitting on 89.24 last week, so they've only climbed about 2.2 points. But the reason that they've climbed that high is actually more the fact that New Zealand, and us have actually dropped a lot of points. New Zealand was on 89 points, 89.72, then on 88.17. Ireland were on 87.25. They got up to 88.80 because of their victory against New Zealand. So that kind of sort of hopefully makes you understand why it's been such a big drop. And the problem for us, for example, is that beating Wales this weekend wouldn't be that big of a deal because you're a home side playing against what's now the eighth ranked side, so you wouldn't get that many ranking points. What I will say is that one of the reasons that the Northern Hemisphere side stand in very good stead is the fact that they've played 7 matches this calendar year, for example, against top 10 opposition. France has played against Ireland, England, Scotland, Wales, and beaten all of them, which is why they went up quite quickly. So South Africa have a golden opportunity, and maybe less so now that the fact that New Zealand are fourth. But if New Zealand were to beat Ireland, for example, and move up to third or whatever, you know, playing against New Zealand at 4th, playing against Australia at 6th will do a lot more for our world ranking points than playing against Wales, who are currently 8th or 9th. Also, at the end of the year, we are playing against Ireland, we're playing against France, and we're playing against England as well as Italy. So Italy are currently in the top 10, but those three will be massive for ranking points. So there's every bit opportunity for South Africans and Springboks to move back up to number 1 in the world. But we do need to start playing against higher ranked opposition and beating them. And that's no disrespect to Wales because they beat us and they 100% deserve to beat us. And the problem is that losing to a lower ranked side is huge detrimental to your world ranking points. Just as unfortunately beating them wouldn't have done much for us. If we were to beat France, Ireland, New Zealand in the next 3 matches, for example, we'd surge to the top. You know, especially if we were playing away, for example, because that also comes into it. So personally, I've never really looked at the world rankings as a massive thing. You know, I think that you count success in trophies. And I think the Springbok squad's the management and the squad are quite similar. You know, that they wanted the British and Irish Lions series, they wanted the World Cup win. You know, world ranking points are not, you know, the be all end all for the squad. Obviously, it's nice to be ranked number 1, but unfortunately, I think with the World Cup, the fact that the draw takes place so early, I don't think it actually means much because they do seed the World Cup draw based on these rankings at a certain point, but they do it far too early to actually make it relevant, unfortunately. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Can the Springboks get back up to number 1 before the end of the year? Let me know if you think they can in the comments. Please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.